Hello and welcome to lesson 4 by Holistic Learning Academy on Java training. In this lecture we'll continue discussing primitives and then we'll study arrays and control statements. Okay, so let's just begin right now. So here what we are discussing first is the integers, or rather the int variables. I should rename this as int. It's not strictly speaking, it's not integer, it's int. Okay, and in int variables we have the decimal base, which is the usual numbers that we know that we use, and then you can also declare octal base, that is base 8. Okay, so 055 in base 8 is same as 45 in decimal. Now how does that work? If you remember from your school math lessons, so you need to take 5 multiply by 8 power 0, which is 1, so you get 5, and then to that you need to add 5 into 8, which is 40. So 40 plus 5 becomes 45. Similarly, you can also declare hexadecimal, in which case you need to precede the number with 0x, and then you can use all the hexadecimal digits like A through F, okay, along with 0 to 9. So this is 0x2d, which is equivalent to 45 in decimal. The next one is binary base. This was introduced in Java 7, as you can see here, and this will have the prefix 0b. Then all it can use is only ones and zeros. So this is just 45 in binary. So let me just show this to you in code. So I have this here, this class called as learning primitives, which is just exactly what I showed you here. So here we have decimal number, octal number, I preceded with 0, hexadecimal number preceded with 0x2d. Now if I did not precede this with 0x, then it will give me a compile error because d is not a valid int value. Okay, so let me just show that to you. So if I remove 0x, see here it's giving me a compile error. So I'm going to precede it with 0x, prefix it with 0x. Similarly in 0b, if for example I put a 2 here, it's going to complain because 2 is not a valid binary digit, or it's not a valid bit. Okay, so if we run this, so let's just run this as Java application. So all of them print 45. Okay, that's wonderful. Now let's proceed here. This is just for the sake of completeness, I wanted to show this to you. Okay, so next here, so before I explain this to you, let's just do it in code. So here, let me actually redo this one. I'm just going to delete that class. Now we want to do milliseconds per year. So we want to compute how many milliseconds are in 1 year. So let me just call this class milliseconds printer. Okay, finish, and as usual I'm going to declare a main method inside here. Okay, and I'm going to say int number of millis in a year equal to, I'm going to assume there are 365 days in a year, 365 into, and then we got how many hours in 1 day, 24, and then into 60 is going to be number of minutes in 1 hour, and I multiply that by another 60 to get the seconds, and then I multiply that by another 1000 to get the seconds, milliseconds. So this is 365 days per year multiplied by 24 hours in a day, multiplied by 60 minutes in an hour, multiplied by 60 seconds in 1 minute, multiplied by 1000 milliseconds in 1 second. Okay, now if I just print this num millis in a year, what do we expect? Okay, so let's just go to the calculator and I'm going to compute this. So let's say 365 into 24 into 60 into 60 into 1000. So it should print this number, okay, whatever this is. So we need to get 31,536,000,000 milliseconds in a year. Let's see what it prints. So run as Java application. Oh, it's not printing this for us. This is something else, it's different, right? Now any guesses why this is different? we think about it, in the previous lecture we talked about overflow. So now what's happening here obviously is just an overflow, because this is such a large number and it's not going to fit inside an int. Okay, so that's why whenever you are doing this we need to be a bit more careful. Okay, so we need to change this to long. Okay, is it going to work? So let's see what happens. Okay, so I run as Java application. Oh, it is still printing the same old thing, right? Even though I made it long, which should in principle be able to fit this, right? 31 billion easily fits into a long, right? What is the problem here? Well, the problem here, like we discussed in the previous lecture, bare whole numbers are always int. Okay, so Java does not know that we are going to finally put all this into a long. Whenever it does all these computations, it is still performing int computations, and whenever int computation happens, when overflow happens, it's going to just run out of space, so it will start wrapping around like we discussed before. So what should we do? If I prefix this first 365 with an uppercase L, okay, and save this, now Java knows this is a long number. It will be okay. So let's just try to run this Java application. So here we see 31,536,000,000. Is that 536 million? Yeah, that's 31,536,000,000. Okay, this is why it's kind of important when you deal with long variables to put this L suffix before your first multiplier. Okay, that's just good practice, something that we need to keep in mind. Alright, so that's good. So now let's just move on. That's what I'm discussing here, what we should be doing. Okay, the next one is the Java naming style for the variables. Now if you are going to use the variable single word, then simply use the all lowercase convention. Simply int age equal to 25 will work for you. Okay, if more than one word is there in your variable, you use what is known as a lower camel case or mixed case, like here num tires in truck equal to 10, right? Batting average, so you uppercase the second name. So this is just camel casing convention, right? And then don't use single letter variables like ijk other than in a loop, and also never name any variable L. Okay, it's very difficult to distinguish this L from 1. Okay, and then this is something that you should keep in mind. Good variable names themselves provide documentation. So let me show you an example. So let's say here I got something like new class, let's say bad variable. Okay, names. So here in main method I'm just going to do some bad programming here. Okay, so I'll say int x equal to 60, and then here I say number of seconds in a minute. Okay, like I said it before, you have this comment. This is a comment, everything after this, and in Eclipse the default font just highlights it in uses the color green for comments. Okay, now this is okay, this will work. For example, you want to use x, you know this is number of seconds in a minute, but this is very bad naming practice. What you should learn is remove the comment and then just say num seconds in minute. Okay, this is a bit more difficult to type, but with Eclipse you can just like use num sec and then control space, and then you get your variable, right? So it's not that difficult. Eclipse makes your life easy for you. If you are using a simple text editor, then this is difficult, I can understand, because you need to type all this, so you may want to call this as x. But then with an IDE like Eclipse, you should just use this. And notice that here, like I said, we are using the mixed case or the lower camel case, which means the first letter should still be lowercase, and after that you should uppercase the first letter of each word in your variable. Okay, So let's move on. The next one is arrays, and you must have studied arrays if you come from other programming languages, like C, C++ or anything, right? So here what we are going to do is we just see this is what is known as an array variable declaration. That is, here I am just saying ages is an int array, okay? And if you want to initialize, here we are initializing ages as a 3-element int array, all right? Or we could combine these two steps in one step like this: int, then you have to open and close square brackets, ages equal to new int of 3, and then, as you may recall, array indexes start at 0, okay? So ages of 0 equal to 45, ages of 1 3, ages of 2 is equal to 14. Like this you can declare the array values for each one of your array elements. Or more succinctly, all this can be combined into this notation: int ages equal to 45 3 14 within curly braces. Whenever you do this, Java knows this is an array, okay? So lot of bugs happen because of this 0 to 2. Here you see 0 to length minus 1. Length is 3, but then the index runs only up to 2. If you try to access ages of 3, you will run into a problem. So I'm going to demonstrate that in a second. So let's just go here and then create a new class called arrays demo, okay? As usual, our main method, and then here I'm going to say int ages equal to, if you want we can do new int of 3 like we said there, and we get an array, integer int array, okay? So here I can say ages of 0 equal to some 100, ages of 1 equal to 45, ages of 2 equal to 30, okay? Now if I say ages of 3 equal to 59, right, this statement has no idea what the size of array is, okay? So it will just simply accept, okay? We'll come back to this in a second, but we know that our size is only 3, so we can only run from index 0 1 and 2. So let me just print this array, okay? Let's see what happens. Run as Java application. Oh, what is this? It's printing something that we haven't seen. This is not what we put in our array. The reason for this is, in Java, if you have objects, okay, remember ages, this is an array, and array we said are not primitives, they are objects, so we cannot print like this. So for now what I am going to do is take the long route rather than going the for loop. Since we have not covered for loop, I am just going to print ages of 0 and then ages of 1 and ages of 2, okay? So this way I can access them. So let me run this: 100, 45 and 30. Now what it printed before, when we just printed ages, we will see that, but right now just stick to this one: ages of 0, ages of 1 and ages of 2, okay? So we printed the 3 elements that are in our array. So now what happens if I try what we were trying before? Ages of 3 equal to some value, let's say 15, right? Now we know that our array is only of size 3, but we are putting a 4th element in our array. Let's see what happens. Run as Java application. Here is your first taste of what is known as exception. It says exception in thread main, okay? What is thread main? So whenever we run this program, this Java class, it is associated with a thread. All the programs run in a thread, okay? So it says this is the main thread. So the main method, this is runs in main thread. It says java.lang.array index out of bounds exception 3. What does this mean? This is a runtime exception, which means it's not a compile exception. If we had a compile problem, then right here when we typed this, Eclipse would have complained with the red squiggly line, but it didn't do it. But when it actually tried to run the program, it said, oh, I can't accept this third element. It's also telling you which line number. If you just click on this, it will take you right there. It says this is the line that has the problem, right? So if we eliminate this, we'll get this. Now similarly, if you try to access an element which doesn't exist, it's out of the bound. The bound is only 0 to 2, right? The index bound. But if I access 3 or 10 or anything, right? 3 or anything other than 0 to 2, and I try to run as, now it will complain. See, it printed these three things, and then finally when I tried to print this, it says array index out of bounds exception, the index 3, right, of size 3 array. Okay, so this is a very, very important thing to remember, and whenever in interviews they ask questions, most likely this bug will arise, right? We need to make sure that we check our indices. Even after years of experience, I have attended interviews myself, and then I have messed up these array index ranges. Okay, so I need to go back and correct my code. All right, so we need to keep this in mind with arrays. Okay, so we saw int arrays. Similarly, we can have other types of arrays. All right, so let me just go back here. So arrays are objects, and then to get the size of an array, use the array name dot length. All right, so let's just go back here and then see what the length of this array is. Array length equal to, and I'm going to say ages dot length. Okay, now in Eclipse, whenever you have objects, you have to use the dot operator for invoking what are known as methods on it. See here, there are a lot of things here. You can do what is known as hash code, toString, length. All these methods are available for us. We are just going to use length here now for simplicity. Now if you hover over this, let me just go back here, dot length. If I hover over this, if I click on this, it will just take it. Okay, so let me run this. So application array length equal to 3. All right, now we can use this in a for loop, which I believe is the next slide. Okay, great. So let me just go over. So this is very tedious to print, right? What if our array has 1,000 elements? Okay, so we're not going to do this. This I just did for demonstration. So you want to use what is known as a for loop. Okay, so let's just do for loop, and then we are going to have an index to run. So I'm going to say int index equal to 0, and see, I begin it with 0 because we know that index 0 exists, right? And index, now this is the crucial part, should be less than ages dot length, and then I say index plus plus. Okay, this is what is known as a C style loop. In C programming language, you would just be using this kind of index running variable inside your for loop. Now how does, let's make sure that we have the correct indices. We said that 0 is the correct beginning index, the end index, ages dot length we saw is 3, right? So if I just iterate less than ages of dot length, then I'll get only up to 2, so I'm fine. Okay, so the for loop works like this. This is the beginning condition, okay, and after that it checks for this condition. It will run until this condition is true. Okay, until index dot length, index is less than ages dot length, and finally this is your increment operation. Okay, so let me just print here sys out. And how do I access the index element at index? So I just say here ages of index. Okay, so this is going to first have 0, ages of 0, and then ages of 1, ages of 2, and then index will be 3, and then it will come out of the loop. So let me just run this Java application. So we got 145 and 30. Common bug, sometimes here we put less than or equal to. okay, and then we save this. Now we know that now index is going to run up to 3 and it will throw the same exception that we just saw, right? So if I run this, it will print that, and then it will say array index out of bounds exception. Okay, so it's a common exception that will arise if you don't write good code. So we should have less than. Now the alternate way to do this rather than running through an index, so let me just comment this out, okay, is with a for each loop. What is known as a for each loop? What is a for each loop? You can just say int age and then use a colon and then ages. Okay, so what this does, same thing as here, but it's way simpler and it won't have as many bugs as this one, because here we may mess up some index range. This simply says whatever age is there in ages, give me that, sys out age. Okay, so this is a for each loop, and then in a for each loop, if I just run this Java application, it's 100, 45, 30, it's just printing. So there are two ways to iterate an array. Sometimes you may need to use this, but if you really want to be bug free and more efficiency, this also reads nicely. For int age in ages, just read it like that. For int age, this is in, just read it like in ages. So it will just iterate over the elements of this array and then print this for you. This is a for each loop, which is what commonly we'll be using. Okay, so next see some more. Next is control flow, right? And then this you may be familiar coming from other programming languages. Now what we are going to study, what does this example say? Let's just go through this. So we are trying to print the number of days in a month. All right, so you are given the month, you are given the year. Okay, so we just need to print the number of days that are there in that month of the year. So this is a common problem. What we know that if the month is going to be January, March, or May, or this is July, August, October, or December, then we have 31 days in a year. All right, and then the other months like April, June, September, and November have 30 days. And then only February, if it's going to be a leap year, there is some logic here that I just looked up online and I just coded it. There is some complicated logic for leap year. Here, if the year is divisible by 400, then it is a leap year. Or the year is just divisible by 100, then it's not a leap year. For example, year 2000, right? Year 2000 that just was 14 years ago. 2000 percentage 400 is 0, so it's a leap year. But if you are going to take a 1900 is not a leap year, because 1900 percentage 400 is not 0, so it will come here. 1900 percentage 100 is 0, so it's not a leap year even though it's divisible by 4. Okay, that's just some adjustments. And then here we came here, we said num days is equal to is leap year question mark 29 colon 28. What is this? So is leap year is a boolean variable. If leap year, then we say it's 29 days, otherwise we say 28 days. So let me just illustrate this one. For now I'm just going to copy paste this into the method. So let's just say new class num days in month printer. See, whenever I am naming my classes, I always start with uppercase, okay? But for variables, you need to begin with lowercase and then do this camel casing, okay? So I'm going to say main and then paste this here, okay? And then I pressed Ctrl Shift F. Now let's see this. So what are we saying? We have some int month and int year given to us, and then we need to get the number of days, all right? And then we just went through all these steps. Now let me just illustrate this step here, okay? If we don't use the ternary operator, then our code is going to look like this, okay? For a moment, let me just comment this out and say if is leap year, then num days equal to 29, else num days equal to 28. Okay, now this is not as succinct as just this statement, so this is more, this does the same thing with less number of lines, so you can delete this. Okay, so ternary operator is very useful. Initially when you look at it, it may look a bit weird, but once you get used to it, you'll just enjoy it thoroughly. Okay, I love using this ternary operator because your code, instead of writing 5 lines, is just going to be a single line. So let's just run this. So here we are computing for, let's see, February of 2012. Okay, so I'm just going to run this, and then it says February of 2012 has 29 days. So why does it have 29 days? Since month is equal to 2, it's going to come here, and then it's going to say is leap year is equal to true, because it fails these two conditions, and then it comes over here, it's divisible by 4, so it does this. Now we can just slightly improve the efficiency of our code. Here we are saying, see, we are checking all this. Previously we saw that the OR operator is going to be a short circuit operator. So whenever month equal to 1, this is false, it has to evaluate this, it has to evaluate this, all these things it is going to evaluate. Similarly, it's going to evaluate all these conditions because it's false, right? So we can cut down on some conditions here, which is just going to be efficient, which is give it a default. So we know that if month is going to be 1, 3, 5 and all this is 31. So why don't we initialize it as 31? Okay, and then I can essentially remove this condition, right? Remove that condition. Okay, now what happens if month is anything that is not in 4, 6, 9, 11, then it's going to come here. But here I can use an else if, right? Else if month equal to 2, which is basically February, then we know that we have to do this complex computation, right? We have to check all this, and then we have to decide the number of days. But if month is going to be 1, right, so it comes here, it has to check fewer conditions, right? In the previous case this would have gone in, but what if this month is going to be 2, right? In the previous case, if month was 1, it would have gone through the first if condition and succeeded, but if month is 2, it would have to go through the first condition, second condition, and then come to the third condition. So that's why it may be easier for you to just default it to 31, which is the most common case, because 6 out of 12 months have 31, so we don't even need to check for that. And then we could come here, and then this is also illustration of else if, right? So this condition passes, then it will be fine, otherwise we come into else if. So let me just run this, and then again 29. Is this clear? So, and then if I say if this is equal to 1, then it's not going to come through either of this loop, so it's going to print 31, which is our default. All right, so it's just some simple logic to reduce the amount of code that we have. All right, we can always look for, these are more known as micro optimizations, but this helps you write efficient code when you think about it, if you can reduce any operations. Okay, very easy concepts again. All right, so this is the same thing that I'm illustrating here. The next one is the switch case statement. What is a switch case statement? It's basically, instead of going through each one of these conditions in an if and then else if, we could just alternately write this in a switch case. Okay, so let's see the equivalent switch case. Let me just, actually we could as well use this, the same example. So let me just push this to the bottom, right? I'm going to comment this out, and then come here, I'm going to say switch control space and then switch case. See, if I do this, it does a lot of things. What we need to do is give a key. So the key is going to be month. Yeah, so if I give a month, then case 1 is January, and then I can do case 3 and all the other cases that we saw before. Let me just go here and copy this. Alright, so this is going to be equivalent of all that. Okay, So what I'm saying is, if it is case 1 or case 3, it's the same as this, except this doesn't go through and check each and every one condition. If it is switch on the month, it directly jumps into case 3 here if it's going to be 3. So I'm going to say case 5. Okay, so I've just made all these cases. Whatever we had in the if condition before, I just made it as case. Okay, so I said switch month. If month is going to be 1, then it's going to come here and directly jump over here. Okay, so case 3 is all these different cases will all say num days equal to 31. The main thing about switch case is that it's very efficient. It doesn't need to go through each one of these. If the moment month is going to be, let's say, 11, it will come here and directly jump over here. It doesn't need to evaluate everything. Okay, but the main thing is, like you see here, we may forget to include a break. So after every case block, we need to include a break. Okay, otherwise what it will do, it will pass through this condition, come here, and then it will run through here. Break means just jump out of this loop. Okay, this is a loop, so it will just come over here, it will execute this, and then it will break out and come out of the switch block. Now we see here case 4, 6, 9 and 11 you have 30, and then the same code as case 2, which is February. We check whether it's leap year, and then we set the num days. Now what is this default? Default means if it doesn't match any of these conditions, then it is just going to not do anything. Okay, so if it doesn't match 1, 2 through 12, then we have this default case. So let me just delete this since we already demonstrated all this. So I'm just going to print this number of days right now. Let's just check this runs. So 31. So this runs fine. I'm using number month 1. So let's just do month 2, run as Java application 29. Now, like we said before, here instead of going through all these cases, right? So I could as well delete this and then put it here, right? Num days equal to 31. So what we are essentially saying here, I can just say num days is equal to 0. Okay, because we don't know a priori. All the logic is, let's say, inside. We say that if it's 4, 6, 9 or 11, then the number of days is going to be 30. If it is case 2, you check if it's a leap year and then set it to 29 or 28. Otherwise, you simply default it to 31. Okay, so if we run this, it goes through 29, and then if I change this to, let's say, 2012, it's going to say 31. Right, 31. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Now similarly, for switch case statements, you can use other variable types. Here we are using int. We can also use char, we can use short, byte and so on. But notice that you wouldn't want to use a float or a double, because float or double, they are not exact numbers, so you can't use a switch case. Switch case is useful if your if-else condition gets just out of hands. It's just nice. But main caveats is this break. You need to remember to add a break. Otherwise, it will just run through whenever it runs the next break. Like for example, if I don't have a break here and I don't have a break here, it will always come here. Even if it passes 4, it will set it to 30. It will come here, it will run all this, it will run this, and then it will always set num days equal to 31. Okay, so that's a common bug with switch case. You need to be a bit careful whenever you write switch case like that. Okay, so that's just again another control flow statement. And beginning Java 7, you can even use strings inside switch case. Okay, so if you have a string, you can actually check on the value here. Alright, so you could just try it out yourself. Just have some string variable. We haven't covered strings in detail, but I'm going to do that in a minute. But you can also use strings. And then couple of more, the looping and branching we have is the while condition and do while. I won't cover it in detail, so it will be just simply like you have a while condition, and as long as this condition is true, you are going to execute some code. Do while is basically going to be executed at least one time, and then it checks for the condition. Okay, and then we already saw for and for each, and in branching statements we saw break, right, inside switch, and then continue and return are other two branching statements. Continue means let me just illustrate with an example here. So let's just do continue demo, because that's something that I believe we can do here. Continue demo. Okay, finish. Then let's just get our main method. Once we get our main method, I'm just going to say ages equal to let's say 120. Okay, something. These are not ages of people, these are ages of let's say planets. Okay, so now let's just go through for int or int index equal to 0, index less than ages dot length, index plus plus. Okay, and then what I'm going to say here is, just let me illustrate break, and then I'll illustrate continue. So what I'm going to say, if index equal to 1, just break. Okay, which means jump out of the loop. Otherwise you can print sys out ages of index. Okay, so what will happen, initially 0 will be the index, so it's not equal to 1, so it will come and print this. And as soon as index equal to 1, so let's just print here sys out index is 1, I am breaking. Okay, let's run this. So we see here, first it printed index ages of 0, this number, and after that it says index is 1, so I am breaking. Okay, now what is continue? If instead of break I just say continue, continue is simply going to skip that all this from here, and then it will immediately go here and increment index. So I'm going to say I am continuing. Okay, so what we expect is, when index is 0, it's going to come here, this won't pass, so it will print it. When index is 1, it will come here. As soon as it sees continue, it will go here, it won't come and execute this. So index of 1, this number won't be there in our output, and after that these two numbers will be there because this condition is not met. Let's just run this and see. Right, so index is 1, I am continuing. Right, it came here, it didn't print the second number, it printed the third and fourth number. So that's basically it. Now if you see return is we'll come to return in a moment. That's basically we can use inside methods, so we'll be studying this shortly. Alright, the next one, here we come into again another object type, which is string. Now strings are very special in Java. Okay, they are not primitives, but they are very close to primitives. They are actually objects, but they are very special objects. So you would initialize like you initialize a primitive, right? Like you say here string str, anything you put it inside double quotes is going to be a string. So don't use something like here, like new string hello world. You should never use this. Okay, but this is how we, even if you remember, created arrays. Like here, if we go and see, right, so how did we create arrays? We said new int of 3, right? But whenever you create string, just create them like you would create primitive, like here string str is equal to life is beautiful within double quotes. Okay, and then there is a subtle difference between char and string. Char is basically for the character type, yeah, but this is a primitive. Char is a primitive, string is a object. Now char you use single quote, string you should use double quote. So let's illustrate the difference. New class char versus string. Okay, our main method. So I'm going to say char c equal to, I use single quote a. Okay, and then I use string s is equal to double quotes a. Okay, so we can print these two, sys out c, sys out s. Okay, and we print them. Let's see what happens. They just print simply a. Okay, but this is different from this a. Okay, because we can do this equality check. Alright, so let's just do that. You remember the equality check inside if, we just say if c 2 times equal signs double equal to a, this is out, c is character a. Okay, here we are going to say if s equal to a, see right here it's giving us compile error, right? Because this is string, which is an object, and this is a car, right? So we can't really do this even. Okay, we can't even have this code compile. So where we are expecting a string, we can only compare strings with other strings. So if you see here, incompatible operand types, string and car, we cannot do this. All right, okay. So that just illustrates the difference between the two. Of course, if you run this will say true. Okay, C is character A. Okay, so that's about strings. We'll be studying strings in a bit more detail as we proceed. So with that, I'd just like to conclude it here. In the next lecture, we'll be studying object-oriented programming and then pick up more even on all these things that we have covered today. Okay, so see you in lesson 5.